Guoba here. The 2.0 livestream just showcased our brand new 5 stars for the first Penacony patch, Black Swan and Sparkle. They look quite crazy and look like a great way to introduce our second year of star rail units with some awesome animations and kit designs. Today we'll be looking at Black Swan and how good her kit sounds, as well as some ideas on what to run on her and who to run with her. Unfortunately, they didn't show as much as usual and the highlights page has no extra goodies. Though her kit does look pretty complex to min-max, so I'll see you on the main guide for her best sets, icons and team comps all calculated. So like and sub if you don't want to miss out on that, but for now, let's dive into what was revealed. Black Swan is a Wind Nihility 5-star unit, or the waifu-ification of Sampo. She will be a DoT Sub DPS, and we finally get our first 5-star DoT Sub DPS for Kafka compositions. She unfortunately has no detonations from what was revealed so far in her kit, so only unrevealed Eidolons and Traces can save her from being relegated to the sub DPS role. You can of course try and run her as a main DPS though, much like the other DoT units, and I hope it works. So she is all about applying her stacking DoT Arcana through various means, as well as applying debuffs to support her damage and her team's damage over time, but with a ramp up mechanic. This makes her probably the most backloaded unit yet, or at least the most backloaded DoT unit. If the multipliers are high enough though, that will not matter because the enemy will be dead. We don't have values yet though, so be warned. So Arcana is her DoT and it does wind damage, so it's going to be a variant of Wind Shear, much like a Road is to Shock from the Patience is All You Need icon. So it should scale off wind damage percent as normal. You will be stacking this in many ways, like her basic, skill, enemy turns and more. It looks pretty crazy. Her basic is single target but does seem to apply her Arcana DoT. Her skill will hit 3 enemies in a blast, apply her Arcana again, and even reduce enemy defense. This is massive for damage, gives potential with the tutorial Lycone, and benefits the prisoner set we should all be running on our DoT units. This is also our 3rd death reduction unit in the game, and the fact that she is also a damage over time unit is great for this archetype, since we weren't running Pala or Silverwolf in the best Kafka compositions, despite the strong damage amping power of Death Shred on DoT and break damage. Her ultimate will attack all enemies and apply a debuff. We have no idea what this debuff does yet though. Black Swan's technique will apply a ton of Arcana stacks to enemies repeatedly, maybe a bit like Knife's technique with Fire Kiss stacks. So the stream footage shows us that detonations work on Arcana and also provide more Arcana stacks with a limit. We can see the stacks hitting nearly 20, so who knows how many stacks we can get up to. The footage also shows at enough stacks, the DoT will explode onto adjacent enemies, as we can see the dogs on the left and right are in fact hurt from the monkey taking its turn, and that is a sentence I didn't think I'd ever say. This also shows at the start with her technique, and the adjacent proc seems to also apply Arcana to adjacent enemies, which is massive. We also see for a single frame that Arcana will apply an additional stack when the enemy takes their turn and receives DoT damage. Safe to say her kit is going to be a difficult one to fully understand. So she looks to be a nuke DoT unit as previously stated. You'll want to apply as much DoT as possible and different types of it to enable more and more Arcana stacks. These extra dots can be a Road from Kafka's signature, probably break dots, and Arcana itself, as we can see in the footage that she applies 1 stack of Arcana as a baseline attack on her basic and skill, and then applies more just after. Despite the 3 DoT teams seeing benefits for more Arcana stacks, there's no doubt that even with Black Swan, 2 DoT plus Raw May will still be the strongest composition we can get. Kafka, Black Swan and Raw May will be our premier 5-star DoT team and should hopefully be insane, but we'll have to see on release. For preliminary relic options, we will want the prisoner set naturally. Her Death Shred will make the Death Ignore passive even stronger than usual for herself and any DoT allies also rocking the set. The Wind set is another possibility as a 2-piece combo with Prisoner or Musketeer. Planar sets will be the usual Glamoth or Space Sailing Station, with Pancosmic being a possibility depending on her effect hit rate, just like on Guoba, Sampo and Luca if you do have it farmed. I hate farming that world though. For Lycones, we'll definitely want to try out the tutorial Lycone if it enables big new rotations on her. She reduces death on her skill, so we can abuse this Lycone for some serious energy gains. If not, perhaps you can use tutorial on another unit in your team with her Death Shred access, as we don't usually bring Pala in DoT comps, but now we don't even need to, for the tutorial light cone. Good Night Sleep Well will still be a strong DPS option if you go that route, and she applies so many debuffs this will be maxed easily. If you don't have Patience is all you need, I would keep Good Night Sleep Well on Kafka though. Eyes of the Prey gives us great damage and great free stats and effect hit rate. All DoT Sub DPS can run this really well so far. Resolution Shine's light cone can give us even more death shred to further complement her skill's death reduction. For full light cones and best relic calculations alongside main stats and a stat goal, I will find everything for the main guide when values are officially released. Now onto the Kafka question, does she need Kafka? For now, without Traces potentially saving her, I believe she will need Kafka to excel. I say excel because we still have Mr. Sampo that could save you. Kafka can detonate all dots on her skill and ultimate, with her ultimate being able to detonate those on all enemies on the field. This detonates dots at 75% of the base value from her skill and 100% of the base dot value on her ultimate. That is a ton of free damage. This means you want to detonate as much as possible to abuse her high nuke dot power. These detonations will also supply even more Arcana stacks. Furthermore, since dots will give Black Swan more of her own dot stacks, Kafka with her signature is going to receive another buff if you run Kafka Black Swan together, as it will provide an additional shock through the Erode passive. Finally, Kafka's damage is just much better than Sampo's in general, so you'd be missing out on some damage regardless without considering Black Swan's own damage. Either way, I will calculate the DPS difference between Kafka Black Swan and Sampo Black Swan on release for you guys. But now let's talk about Sampo specifically. First, you'll need his E4 if you want a chance. After 5 stacks of wind shear are on an enemy, which can be his own, the enemy will take 8% of current wind shear damage per skill hit. At E4 that will be 6 hits for a detonation of 48%. Since it is a bounce though, that means it can be split among enemies and not even fully detonate on the right enemy. And 48% detonation versus 75% and then 100% per enemy on ultimate is quite saddening. But if you don't have, or if you don't want Kafka, he's probably your next best option to make Black Swan work. Since Gwynaifan's ultimate will detonate burns and Luca's enhanced basics will detonate bleeds, it is probably a bad idea to run them alone with Black Swan without Kafka. With Kafka, you can run them together and Resolution Gwynaifan will be a blast with tons of def reduction and def ignore in the team. Luca lacks AoE application and should thus be reserved to physical break comps. If you do run 3 dots, it will be between Gwynaifan and Sampo for the 3rd slot, with Sampo bringing more damage and Arcana detonations, and Gwynaifan giving more damage amp to Black Swan and Kafka. Anyway, let me know what you think of her. Is she the 5-star DoT Sub DPS you dreamed of, or does she look a bit too funky to use? Anyway, like and sub if you're cool. Thank you to all my amazing YouTube members. Thanks for watching and have a Guoba day.